Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive. I am the Flash.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan, and with me as always is Chris, and we are talking Man of Steel, the 10th anniversary, which is coming up on June 14th, and the 85th anniversary of Superman, the character, is today as well. Not today, but, is this year. So we got a lot to dive into. This is a perfect time to revisit it because we know they're revisiting some of these events in The Flash, which is coming out that week that Man of Steel came out, the June 14th week, June 16th. This was my first time watching it since theaters. All right, I have not seen this movie in 10 years, so this is a perfect time to revisit it for me. And I have some thoughts, but Chris, when's the last time you watched Man of Steel, and what are your general thoughts about the movie?
So I watched Man of Steel yesterday morning, but before that, a couple summers ago. It's a movie I turn on every now and then. I enjoy the movie. I think it is a really perfectly done Superman origin story. I love the Krypton stuff. I think Krypton in this is really inventive and fresh, and there's a lot of cool things that I kind of wish we got more of a legacy, like in the comics and in other movies, about what they did with Krypton in this movie, because it was cool stuff. And I really like General Zod. Thought he was a menacing villain. I enjoyed the final act of this movie with the action is incredible. The only real gripe I have with this movie is I think sometimes in the beginning of the movie it's a little slow. It's a little too heavy on the exposition, but I really appreciate, as a guy who really enjoys good writing, I enjoy the threading of the past and the present in together. I enjoy this movie. I think it's one of the better superhero movies, but I'm not going to say it's a top five or maybe not even a top 10 superhero movie in general. I really enjoy it.
So the first time I saw this movie was 2013, June. I think I probably went opening weekend or whatever, and it was the first, my wife and I were at the time were dating for about a month, and officially, like boyfriend girlfriend, we had some blind dates in February of 2013, but so we go see this movie. She wants to see it for Henry Cavill, pretty much, and I want to see it for Superman. And I remember us both enjoying it enough, like I still use the cup. I have this cup from the Walmart aisle where you can find party stuff, and they have like these 89-cent cups that have the characters on it. I still have the cup from that. So it's a 10-year-old cup. It works great, by the way, but I still have that. And, that was really when I was huge into Superman. I still am. I'm kind of getting bigger into him again, but like that was peak Superman for me because I just finished rewatching Smallville. I was excited a new Superman movie was coming, and I think it was a good basis overall for a universe if they did want to do it for that, or even just a Superman franchise. I will say, I think they botched it, the next film. I mean, I like BVS enough, but I really wish at the end of this movie, especially now that I'm remembering the movie and I just watched it again for the first time in 10 years, it really sets up for a very faithful Superman story at the end that we never get to see. We never get to see it going forward. Like, I guess we can kind of get into my gripes a little bit later, but like at the end, you have him at the Daily Planet. He's with Lois Lane. He's fully embraced Superman as himself, and then the movie ends. And you're like, oh, that sets up great for whatever comes next. And then the next movie, he's sharing a spotlight with Batman, and he dies. And then, and then we see the Justice League, which was a train wreck of behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And then we don't actually really get the full payoff until Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I think is just overly long. And it kind of feels like really wasted potential because I really dug Henry Cavill in the role. I think he played this character pretty well in this film. So my general thoughts is this was a good foundation. I have nitpicks, but this was a good foundation. And I'm sad that they did not build anything on top of this.
I understand that sentiment. I don't think it's any shocker that I would say Henry Cavill was done wrong by Warner Brothers. I do love Batman versus Superman, but it's a movie that I've gained appreciation for with rewatches. And Zack Snyder's Justice League could be 4 hours longer if it wanted to be. I'm all for it.
No,
I don't think it's
thank you.
too long. I could go
Way
for
too
another
long.
6, another 8, another 10 hours of that, please. I enjoy Zack Snyder's work. I thought Zack Snyder's Justice League was a masterpiece, and I think in that you get the payoff with Henry Cavill. It's just it was too late. You could
8
not.
years later. Yeah.
Mhm. Now when The Rock toyed with us and we believed that Henry Cavill was coming back, I was excited because Henry Cavill's Superman means a lot to me. I really like his rendition of Superman. But let's not act as if that we can build off the Superman in a new universe. It will always be tied to the Snyder movies. It will always be tied to Batman versus Superman, and there will always be baggage for it. What I love about Man of Steel is we didn't have to worry about that at this point. We could just enjoy a good Superman movie. And I defy anyone to tell me it wasn't a good Superman movie. You can have your gripes with the movie. You can have your gripes with Jonathan Kent putting his hand out and saying, "Let me die, son," which I have some qualms with sometimes too. But the overall enjoyable aspects of this movie, they hit on.
Yeah, so I guess we can get into some of those gripes while we're thinking about them, because I don't want to forget some of my points that I have. The Jonathan Kent stuff does rub me the wrong way. Not just the death, but when he's very conflicting throughout the movie. In the sense of there's times where it feels like he's telling Clark, yes, he should have let those kids die, but then he's also saying, you're you're going to be, your destiny is much bigger than this, So at times it seems like mixed messaging there, and Clark kind of talks about that to Lois, I think, at his grave when he says, like when he told me to let him die, like he didn't think the world was ready yet for me. But I do think with some of the way that my main complaint with his death is that it should have come from a way that he can't prevent, because that's kind of the whole point of the Jonathan death. In this point, it's a natural disaster. Superman can stop that. He can fly into it and grab him. And yes, he would be outed in front of all those people, but I mean, most of those townsfolk were already starting rumors about him. So I don't know. I think it could have been more of a, it doesn't have to be a heart attack. In fact, it could have kept him alive. He is alive in a lot of the comics. It's really started in a Superman 78 that they started killing him off as a plot point. So that's kind of my main gripes with Jonathan. I do think, he's acted well, certainly. But I think there's some mixed messaging there that I'm not really sure what we're supposed to take from Jonathan and that. And then, like I said, I think his death probably should have been something he couldn't prevent.
I like Jonathan Kent in this for the simple reason of how Clark shows you who he is in the moments where he doesn't listen to his father, saving the children of the bus, deciding over and over again to do the Superman thing, to do the noble thing. His gut instinct is to be the friend, to be the helper, and be damned if I get caught. You know, the opening scene with the boat, and he's the hero through fire. By the way, him just completely on fire. Just what a shot! But Jonathan Kent saw the paranoia and the fear, and I think Martha Kent was the love and the hope. And I think they made a really good pairing. You need it. Zack Snyder needs conflict, and he did miss the point of Jonathan Kent's death. I'm not going to act like he didn't. But I like the idea that Clark has to figure this out. And this is the way they decided to present Clark figuring this thing out.
I think I was able to kind of swallow some of these things that upset me a little bit more this time, because I know that this is all like Elseworlds pretty much at this point. Like, we are moving forward. We're probably going to get one of the most comic accurate Supermen with James Gunn. So it's like, part of me can appreciate, like, okay, different take here stuff. I think I can understand why this may have upset people originally, especially when we get to him snapping Zod's neck. I can kind of see why that was highlighted as an issue for a lot of people, and that does kind of bug me. Not enough that like I stormed out like complaining, but it's, you know, it is what it is. It kind of felt like what it kind of felt like, and I feel like we've kind of moved away from this in today's day and age with superhero films. But let's go back to the like 2000s and even the 80s, right? And the 90s. Each movie would have, here's our 1 to 2 supervillains we're having in the movie this year, and usually those people ended up dead. Whether the character killed them or whether they died doing something else, they usually ended up dead because they wanted to be able to do the next film and have the next big bad. And it was always, that's kind of how it always went. They never did the comic book version where they just do, and now they're in Arkham, or now they're in Rikers, or now they're, you know, like, it was always, you know, Batman 89, they killed the Joker, right? I can't even remember Returns, so I can't tell you. But, you know, when we get to...
The Penguin dies.
Okay, there you go. When we get to the Spider-Man movies, Green Goblin dies, not due to Spider-Man, but he dies. And then Doc Ock dies, right? And so it was like all of those films were always like, well, we can't have that guy still hanging around, or else people are going to wonder why they're not in this movie, I guess. I don't know what their purpose of doing that was, but almost every superhero movie killed off the villain. And it felt like we were kind of still in that stage in this movie where they're like, well, we got to kill Zod. Because they could have sent him back to the Phantom Zone. They had a whole plot where they're like, if we do this thing, we can kind of send them back there, is what Jor-El says, right? And then they don't do that. So it was interesting. That's the way they went. I think it was just kind of the spirit of the time. But with the MCU, we've kind of shifted, overlapping during that time too. The MCU kind of shifted it with keeping Loki around because he was popular and acted by, you know, Hiddleston. And then, yes, some of those guys died as well. Like some of those early MCU characters, villains would die, but then we've kind of seen them kind of staying around more or being in multiple films. So I do think it was just kind of like a bit of a sign of the times for 2013.
Unpopular opinion. I like the neck snap. Unpopular opinion. I like the next step, and the reason I liked
Oof.
it, it's an unpopular opinion. That's fine, but Zod wasn't going to stop. I didn't think Zod was a redeemable character. And there is no established Superman no kill rule at this point in his mythos. It's not like Batman where he has one rule. It's you had an irredeemable character who was never going to not be a problem. I'm sorry, the way that it was presented, there's no way Zod's going to give up. And Superman made the best choice for the most amount of people. I, and I think he didn't want to do it. And I think it killed him. But I think it was the right decision. The problem I have with it isn't that he snapped his neck and made the decision. The problem is, did he have to be put in a position where you had no other way? Did you have to be put in a position where you cornered the writing of the script in that way?
That's my point.
Right.
You can write this. They even gave an out. Jor-El says, "Let's send him back to the Phantom Zone." When he's helping Lois Lane, he's like, "We can do this, whatever. Get him back there." And then, like, I understand your point of, okay, Zod's not going to stop. Zod is literally aiming this heat vision at this family, and he's slowly making his way to him. And that's all just made up by the script, though. Like, they didn't have to go that way with it. But so I can see where you're saying, like, Clark had to do it because at the last minute, like, it's what he's going to do. And yes, it does hurt him. He screams out in agony that he had to do it. But I do think that they probably could have just written it to where he didn't do that. And
if I wrote the script, it wouldn't have been in there. But if you're telling me finish the script and this is where we are, I don't see another way out. Unless he's going to get real creative and like use his frost breath to distract him or something. I don't know.
there you go. He could have frozen him.
Oh, that's actually a really cool.
Enough time to throw him in the Phantom Zone and get him out of there. There you go.
I hate to kill my own point.
Yeah. So I can see that was a bit. So what do you think of Amy Adams as Lois Lane? Because I think she acts the part okay. I don't know if she fits the typical Lois Lane look that people usually have, but she is a journalist that won't let it go. But the other thing that kind of sticks with me a bit, and again, it's not like a big negative. It's just something that while I'm watching, I'm like, oh, okay. The fact that she finds out Clark is an alien before she even knows Clark is a little bit odd. You know, I thought that maybe when she saw him on the spaceship, she would like forget when she sees this guy with glasses come in. But then she does the whole thing where she tracks him down and she goes to the farm and she goes to the grave and like she knows. And she kind of falls in love with that aspect of him before she falls in love with, you know, who he is as a person. So I can kind of see where people don't like the Lois stuff in this, or if they don't like Amy Adams, but I thought she acted it okay. I probably would not have, again, had them like meet with him as Superman first. It's actually before he's even Superman. He's not even wearing the stuff at that point.
Yeah, I have conflicted feelings on this. My biggest problem is I didn't feel the romantic element of this story. At no point did I think they actually had a moment other than the fact that they were two conventionally attractive people. I I didn't see where they were falling in love. The kiss did not feel earned. I could understand that you were setting up a Superman and a Lois Lane relationship in the next movie, but I didn't feel like it was earned in this movie. I liked Amy Adams as Lois Lane, the reporter who won't let it go. The what am I supposed to do if I have to pee? You know, like I'm going to go out and explore this. You know, the sassy attitude
Not
of
pee,
that scene.
tinkle.
Yes, that was the word I was looking for. But I love the sassy attitude of the strong, fierce Amy Adams. I just don't think they set up a romantic relationship. There was no reason to take it there. It is especially because the last scene, "Welcome to the Planet," and then the big smile sets up everything for that to continue on and actually get there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a play on words, right? Of the Daily Planet and also him being an alien planet. A little too on the nose when you're in a room full of other reporters that have no clue that he is Superman, but especially with the smile they're sharing. If I was next to him, I'd be like, "Oh crap, you're probably that Superman guy." um, yeah, I thought it was pretty funny how another, I wouldn't say issue, but just like how fast the FBI is on her just because one person said she knows who he is.
This
On the
guy on the
news,
internet.
one person just says, "Yeah, Lois Lane knows who he is," and the FBI is at the planet. They're going to her house. They're everywhere chasing her down.
Well, it was one guy with a blog that she didn't think was credible, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden he runs a story, and then,
he's credible enough, I guess.
well, but like I was like, wait a second, I thought this wasn't like the New York Times or the Washington Post, and like all of a sudden it's like got that huge audience. It's like
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
So that was a little in the inconsistency of the writing. I didn't have a problem with Lois Lane. I just swear I did not feel any chemistry between her and Henry Cavill as more than just positive acquaintances. I could see it getting there, but I thought it's like, oh, we have two conventionally attractive people who are supposed to be each other's endgame. Let's put them together right away. I feel like if this was the ending of a TV season, they would have gotten there in the next season.
Yeah, yeah. Instead, it's like, yeah, and I think that's another downside of they were probably planning on Man of Steel 2 until it gets shifted into this Batman vs Superman thing where the plan has to change, because the way that this movie ends feels like we're going to continue on with these core group of characters, and we barely get some of those characters in the next movie. So, and then, they're trying to rush to put a universe together as well because of the success of the MCU. And it kind of made a whole detriment to this. I really would be curious on what like Man of Steel 2 looks like in 2016 instead of BVS. Like, I really wonder, like, how does that look? Is it just another solo outing where he's facing like Brainiac or something? Or, are we getting him as more regular Clark Kent at the Daily Planet? Like, that's the kind of stuff I think would be very interesting to see how they would have continued going forward before they had to kind of totally change their plan.
Well, Warner Brothers screwed this up. And the worst part about this is Zack Snyder gets so much of the blame when I think Warner Brothers, I think he did what he was hired to do, and I think they were clueless onto what they actually wanted. If they had a clear direction of what they wanted, they could have prevented this. But I also see Christopher Nolan's fingerprints. He produced it. He picked Zack Snyder. And I kind of have this weird feeling that if The Dark Knight never actually happened, Man of Steel would have been a better movie. Because I feel the effects of, it has to be dark and serious like The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We have to get that. And I think that takes away from the problem is then you go in Batman versus Superman and you have this really dark, conflicted, burdened Superman, which is the exact opposite of Christopher Reeve. Hello there, I'm a friend, and with a big old smile and campiness. And it was the complete opposite. So you had the recipe for polarization, and you didn't even realize that that's what you were doing. It is what it is. It's hindsight, but I appreciate Batman versus Superman, and I think Zack Snyder's Justice League shows you why it's so valuable, because it was so rewarding to get those arcs completed. But I'm not going to pretend that was the way you should build something. It wasn't.
Also, when they're in like the ice, looking at the scout ship that becomes the fortress, pretty much. When they're looking at that and they have Dr. Hamilton there, there's also a guy on the computer who is doing some work. He's played by Alessandro Giuliani, and he plays Officer Sikowski. Okay, what's fun about this and this is a deep pool, I guess. But what's fun about this is if you're a fan of this show, and if you're a fan of Smallville, he plays Dr. Hamilton in Smallville, and he's literally standing in front of Dr. Hamilton in this movie. I thought that was really fun.
Now I need somebody to save me.
Probably not on purpose. He's probably just cast for this role and, in a scene with him. But I think it's funny. He played Dr. Hamilton in how many episodes? And this is only 3 years beforehand, by the way. Oh, 2 years. The show ended 2 years before Man of Steel. 14 episodes of Smallville that he was in as Dr. Hamilton, and he's doing some computer work standing right in front of the Dr. Hamilton of the movie. So, fun fact, that stood out to me. What else about this movie? Let me check here.
Did you have a favorite part of this movie?
Favorite part? That's a good question. Probably, this is gonna sound mean, I guess. I was gonna say probably the end. Not because it's ending, but because of him going in like the planet with his regular Clark Kent look, and I really liked that scene and what it was setting up. But other than that, maybe him like saving the people on the oil rig. I thought that was a really cool moment. I really liked Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I thought he played a pretty good Jor-El. And the gripe I have about the Krypton stuff, it is a little long. My biggest gripe with the Krypton stuff is the fact that Zod kills Jor-El, and they play it as this big shocking moment when I'm like, the whole planet's about to explode. I don't care that Jor-El just got stabbed. Like, I don't nobody else is leaving this planet.
I cared about it though, because that meant that his wife had to live
30 seconds longer without her husband.
To be fair, it was a minute and a half. But yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My favorite moment of this movie was when he's handcuffed, he turns himself in, and he breaks the handcuffs off and is like, let's put our cards on the table. I thought that was an incredible scene. I thought it was acted well by everybody. And I think it is probably some of Zack Snyder's best storytelling in all of his movies. I love that scene. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good scene too. When he's just like, especially when Lois asks, like, why the handcuffs, or why'd you let them? Like, oh, to make them like pretty much think that I'm, like obeying what they want me to do. Pretty much is kind of, giving them that sense of, whatever
comfort.
Yeah.
Such a Superman thing.
Easily rips it off and then just says, I'm not your enemy. And they kind of repeat that line when he comes out of like the bank, right? That when he gets thrown in there and the military is about to attack, and then what Christopher Maloney's character is like, he's not our enemy. Yeah, so that was a good scene. I'm thinking, I think the suit looks fine. I think I do want Trunks though in Superman Legacy. I'm Team Trunks. I think I do want it. At least if not a brighter belt, because I think it kind of something breaks up that middle section to make it not one like long, like unitard, pretty much.
Well, I'm Team Trunks too, so we have that in common. I'm Team Trunks for two reasons. The first reason is because it actually looks stupid without the trunks. Mm-hmm. It just looks like it's like, is he wearing leggings? Is he wearing spandex? What's going on there? It looks stupid. There's just this weird random bulge there. And it's like, okay, we don't need to see that. You
gotta show that off. It's Henry Cavill.
Sure, but he's showing off enough. Let's not pretend he isn't shirtless like 6 times in the movie.
Yeah.
but and then when he's not, he's wearing a form-fitting suit. But I guess he's wearing a cape. He's not showing it off too much. But no, I think it looks weird when it's not there. And the second reason for James Gunn is I think it fits his vibe to have capes. I think it fits his comics accurate vibe. I think he can kind of have people make fun of it and then make you realize you actually like it. I think that's going to happen. So I'm all for James Gunn doing the trunks. I thought that this because people complain that it looks too boring or too dark, but if he had trunks, they wouldn't complain that it was too boring.
Yeah. I think there needs to be something that breaks up the middle. There has to, and that's like the belt is not even like a real belt. It kind of sinks into the suit, and it's silver, and it's like a dark silver to where it doesn't like a
Right.
dull silver. It doesn't stick out enough to make you think like it just looks like one big blue suit. If you put the trunks on, you got that red breaking up, you got the gold belt breaking it up. I think it adds some more there. I think
The suit could have been brighter. I think the red could have been popped
Yeah.
a little more. I don't think you have to have Christopher Reeve's suit, but I don't. If it's not broken, people do not fix something that isn't broken. I think that's when I said the effects of the Dark Knight on this movie.
Yeah.
I think Superman was
Well-
like, how can we make it more like Batman?
And this is not just because of that, because New 52, they of course took away his trunks to try to there seems to be this thing that people make fun of it, right? Because it's the underwear, you're wearing underwear on the outside of your pants or whatever. But I think we're at the point now with comic book movies that just accept it. Like, it is part of the look. I don't ever think of it as looking weird when I look at Superman or Batman when I'm reading a comic. It's part of their costume. Batman's able to kind of get away with it a little bit more because where he doesn't have it is because they never really make the cloth suit. They always give him some sort of armor where the armor is like there's no trunks to it. So I do hope we get trunks. I'm worried we won't still, but I do hope we get it again because I think it just adds color to the suit. Like I said, it breaks it up a bit, and I mean it's just the classic look.
And can I give one more reason for being Team Trunks?
Yeah.
It will drive the people of the Snyder cult, and I mean the bad Snyder cult fans.
Yeah.
The toxics. It will drive them off the wall. We might even get them off the internet because they might just completely cave themselves into their little bubble and we'll never hear from them again. I mean, that's a dream. That's not going to happen. But I guys, if we could, there are certain people on the internet that if you can annoy them, go for it. Just go for it.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling that people, especially like I'll see people. There's this one guy like the unbiased Snyder fan or whatever. He will always, that's what his name is, but he has made it clear he doesn't actually read comics, and then and I'm not gatekeeping that, but like then he'll complain about like, or he'll say like this isn't comic accurate, or and he doesn't read them, so it's kind of odd. But it's like he is somebody that gets really offended by the whole Trunks thing, or like getting on James Gunn a lot. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just a suit, man. Like, I'll get over it if it doesn't. It is something I do want, but where people are like, we're not living in the 70s anymore. He's still drawn with trunks nowadays. So it's not like this is a old school look or something. I mean, it's just his classic appearance.
So July 11, 2025, I walk into Superman Legacy. I want him to be wearing trunks. He's not wearing trunks. Do I leave the theater? No.
Right.
It's just this, the internet is crazy. I was laughing when you said unbiased Snyder fan because that is the That doesn't exist. Uh,
It doesn't exist anyway, because if you're calling yourself a fan of something, you're usually not unbiased anyway.
well, bias is actually
Anything.
everyone has bias. Everyone has
Yeah,
bias, even if they're aware of it. So I don't know, man. I love Superman and Trunks, and I also find it funny that people are upset about a comic book character wearing a comic book outfit. And it's kind of reminds me of chorus when the teacher would say, I know the choreography looks kind of stupid, but people are only going to think it looks stupid if you're the one who doesn't do it.
right.
So it's like Superman is in this world, colorful world of superheroes wearing ridiculous costumes. And he just shows up in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
Anything else about the movie itself? Because I think we covered a lot of the stuff. Is there a character we didn't really touch on that we should talk about, or?
I need some Jimmy Olsen. I wanted
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen.
Don't worry, he gets shot and killed in the next one.
I really like Perry White. I really like Lawrence Fishburne's Perry White. I love that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
He's Perry White, man. He's like, I can't print that, Lois.
Yeah, he was
true.
great.
He can't. He can't print that right now.
But I love the nuance of him going 3 weeks unpaid suspension. That's your punishment. And it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing where he's like, "Look, they want me to sue you. I'm on your side, but I'm like doing my job thing." I thought he was a very nuanced character, and I very much appreciated that. So I liked all the Daily Planet stuff. I actually needed more Daily Planet. I need some Jimmy Olsen people. But other than that, I enjoy the movie. It's not incredible, but it's good. And I think a lot of the negativity about this movie has to do with Batman versus Superman, nothing to do with Man of Steel.
Yeah, I think again, like if we looked at this as, let's say Batman vs Superman doesn't ever exist, and we get an actual sequel to this that's a Superman solo film, I think if it built on this, and he does have his no kill rule at that point, and he has a Jimmy Olsen, and he's doing stuff at the Daily Planet now, and I think people would maybe look at this, if it got its own trilogy, I think people would look at it a little bit more favorably, because I don't know. I feel like this is like, I'll say like a good film, decent film, right? Like it's there, but it could go to a whole nother level with a sequel. And when I know people say that it does have a sequel, but I mean like a sequel of the
A
traditional
true
kind.
Man of Steel sequel is different than Batman versus Superman.
Yes, let's say they never
did.
Let's say they never did the universe, right? Because they don't feel pressure from Marvel for whatever reason, and they stuck to their guns. We could have had a whole trilogy like we had with the Batman Dark Knight trilogy, and maybe you get a Dark Knight that's that's Superman. What I mean by that is like a very crowd pleasing second film that builds off of the first one that people really love. I'm not saying tone, but I'm saying like, that has that type of trajectory, but we'll never know now, which is a shame. Look, if people go back and listen to the first few episodes of the show when we're talking about Black Adam, and before you joined, I said that, there was the rumors out of a Man of Steel 2. I was like, great, I just want a Superman movie. We've gone 10 years without a Superman movie at this point. And before that, it was 8 years. And before that, it was like 20, right? So it's like at this point now where I'm very glad we're kicking it off with Superman Legacy in 2 years, because I need some Superman content in my life. Thank God Superman and Lois is going on at this point, so I have something like that to hold me over.
And I'm just hoping we have it to hold you over a little longer. But
yeah, we're 2 weeks away. We're 2 weeks from the original news of all these shows being canceled. We're 1 week out from when they were supposed to announce it, and we still have no clue. And that worries me. It makes me think that, of course, we will not know until it's done airing. I feel like they're waiting for that.
I feel like they're waiting for that, and it's not going to be good. But I'm hopeful. But I do want to make one more point about Man of Steel and this fictional world in which
Yeah.
fictional world which Batman versus Superman never happens. Wouldn't it make sense if you're going to do an older Dark Knight Returns Batman to have 3 Superman movies before you did that? Then all of a sudden, this Batman who is older, who has been doing this for a while, wouldn't come out of left field and would you could even kind of put hints of it in the second thing without even having Ben Affleck in the movie. Dude, you could have laid the groundwork for that. And then when you have old, bitter Bruce Wayne, people aren't upset that they waited for Ben Affleck Batman and he's just the Dark Knight Returns Batman. By the way, if there's one complaint I have about Zack Snyder is we obviously know what his favorite comic books are, and The Dark Knight Returns is the only Batman book he's read. I'm convinced of it.
If not, it's the one that's his favorite. It's the one he always draws from. And for Superman, it's the Injustice story because he kind of goes right into that with the nightmare sequence.
I swear, it feels like the only ones he's read, which is one of the reasons I love James Gunn, is because I'm sure he's read hundreds and hundreds of stories.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably has forgotten. He probably knows. He's probably forgotten more about comic books than you and I know combined. And I have no problem saying that.
Yeah, the way people are about this online is a little. I know it's the minority, right? But it's a vocal minority where they're constantly on any little post he makes going off, pointing. Case in point, and this is how upset some of the Snyder fans were. I saw this tweet where somebody asked James, is there any movies I have to watch before The Flash? And he said, no, you don't have to have watched any of these movies before The Flash. Just know that Keaton Batman exists and you're good to go. And people said, James, this is very disrespectful. The characters have been on a journey since Man of Steel and BVS, and this is an established character, the Flash, and we should know this, and you should be telling people to watch this. Okay, and he responded saying, I didn't say that it doesn't add more context. Pretty much, he's like, you don't have to have watched anything. He said for Guardians 3, you don't have to watch the first 2. They tell you everything you need to know in that movie. And I would even say with people that compare that to Guardians, even though James says that, it's a little different because Guardians is called Guardians Volume 3. It's not just called The Flash. Where you're going to get a lot of people that just walk in because they think this is the first movie because it's called The Flash. And they're going to walk in and just think this is it. And maybe they watched Keaton Batman. But when I commented on that with somebody that was complaining to James, I said, look, they're trying to sell this movie. If he says you have to watch 3 or 4 projects at minimum before you go see this movie that comes out in 3 weeks, it's going to push more people away than it is going to bring people into the theater. Because at that point, they feel like they have to do homework. And the last thing people want to do beforehand is do homework before going in to see a movie. Let me tell you this. There are people, and we know this to be true, that went and saw Infinity War and Endgame without seeing any previous Marvel film before. They heard the hype, they walked in, and we know that because that movie made more money than any other movie, Endgame, and except for Avatar, which means that there was people walking up, taking their grandparents who had no clue who Iron Man was, and they went and saw this movie. There will be people that go see The Flash that have not seen Man of Steel, that have not seen BVS, that have not seen Zack Snyder's Justice League or 2017's Justice League. And there will be people that go see those movies. And that's good. That's what you want. You want people to just go in and see this movie, and maybe it'll get them interested when they find out that Zod was actually from Man of Steel, and they might go back and look for that film. But it's not needed narratively. They're going to explain in this movie. We've heard it in the trailer when Ezra says, when Flash says, "I've messed up, and now they're in a world with no metahumans, and Zod's returned." That means that this is a bad thing. You don't need to know all the other stuff. So if you're worried about that, or you somehow take offense to that, I don't know what to tell you, but there will be people that go see this movie that have not seen the others, and it's fine. They will understand the story.
Yeah, I think the goal of anything is to make money. And when the goal is to
Bingo.
make yes, and when the goal is to make money, you become very ungatekeepery. You don't want restrictions on money. Any money is good money. Anybody can see it. I 100% agree. And I think there are going to be people who see this movie that this is going to be the movie that sucks them into the Flash. This will be the movie that sucks them in to maybe even Supergirl or something like that. There's so much in this movie. Flashpoint is going to get a huge boost from this. The more people reading comics, the better. It's the more people like superheroes, the better. I think this movie is going to be huge, and I'm going to be depressed if it isn't, because after everything we've been through and after all the positive hype we've gotten, I just it has to be.
It's tracking for 70 million 70 million domestically for opening weekend right now. That'll probably rise, I believe, once more of the actual Rotten Tomato score gets out, once more of the actual reviews go out, because a lot of these fan screenings are just people that are sharing their thoughts, and they were free showings, so it doesn't actually contribute to the thing, but they did leave out the end scene and stuff like that. So there is a need for some of these people to go again. And with the way that people said they've liked it, they will go again. So I do hope that it makes, I saw this box office thing. I'm always on these box office things I'm a box office nerd. And there was this article or, a person saying that they don't think it'll make 100 million opening weekend because the pre-sales are lagging behind Guardians of the Galaxy at this point. And at this point, that they said that it was 8 hours after pre-sales opened. Okay? 8 hours. I don't know many people that buy tickets right away anymore. I used to be one of these guys. I don't know how you were, Chris, but I used to be one of these guys that would buy tickets 3 weeks out whenever they dropped for Star Wars, for MCU. I remember getting my Endgame tickets the day they dropped and the sites freezing and No Way Home. But really, since COVID, I've stopped. One, I was planning to go see No Way Home a fifth time in January of 2022. My wife got tested positive for COVID. I did not, but I did not go because of that. So if I would have pre-bought tickets, it would have been wasted money. Absolutely wasted money because I would not have been able to go. And I've kind of, with COVID and the fact that when I was buying tickets, I would look when they drop tickets. I looked for The Flash just to see. And they have a showing at my local theater at 6:30 and then the next one at like 8 or 9. And my preferred time is 7:30. Okay, that's the preferred time I like to go to the movies. I used to buy tickets for these at 6:30 or 8:30 and be like, well, I guess that's when I'm going. It's going to get out at like 11. I'm going to get home, blah, blah, blah. Well, then I would check the day before the movie comes out, and they would have, guess what? They added showings. And now there's a 7, and now there's a 7:30, and now there's a 8:15. And I was like, so I could have just waited another week or two and got the showtime I wanted. So I started waiting. And I wait all the time now. Guardians, people thought that movie was going to flop because pre-sales were low. Totally walk-up heavy, plus the good reviews helped it. And I bought my tickets on Sunday for the Thursday, and I was able to find a good time and have the last 4 seats that were together. And I will probably do the same thing for The Flash and Across the Spider-Verse. And I'll probably get my tickets at a showtime I like. and I don't have to buy them 3 weeks out.
I agree wholeheartedly that I wait. I wait. So the only one that I bought well into advance was the Batman. I and I just kind of made that happen. I was like, no, I actually didn't think I was going to get to be able to go to the Thursday because I thought it was going to be too crazy in Westminster. And I was like, damn it, I just gotta make that happen. And then it was actually pretty packed. And then the second I got out of the Thursday one, I bought tickets for Saturday. So but you know what, Guardians, I bought it the day before. I went and saw it, and I thought it was, oh well, it's not that there's a lot of seats available. Well, it was pretty packed by the time that I went to the theater, and I bought my tickets the day before, and there weren't that many seats filled. So that kind of proves your point. But also, I don't have the type of schedule that I can usually say, oh, I'm going to do this far out in advance. I don't have that type of schedule. I don't think a lot of people do. So I mean, are you going to request off a day just to go to the movies? I mean,
I do.
I made it happen for the Batman, so I'm not going to say
when I worked in the call center, I would take off like the day of Star Wars movies in December, and I would give it my and Endgame. I took off the day for Endgame, and the movie's not till 6:30 or 7:00, but I would just chill at home and hype myself up. I watched the movie, Infinity War or something, and I go. I don't do it a lot, but there was times I would. I probably, with how many vacations I've had lately, I've lessened that because again, with COVID, I don't want to like plan a lot of this stuff out and then not be able to actually do the thing. And I kind of got burnt with Guardians too because I bought tickets on Sunday. And then my wife was sick on Thursday and couldn't go. Not COVID, but she wasn't feeling well. So I did have to eat the cost there. So I can understand why pre-sales are not popular right now. And they are, I feel like they're still popular, but they're becoming less and less of a metric to figure out how the opening weekend is going to be. So I do hope this proves them wrong because I want this movie to open above 100 mil. I think that'd be really, really great.
But I think that shows you the barometer right now.
And that's the thing. I'm a huge fan. I have a podcast about this stuff, and I don't even book tickets 3 weeks in advance.
Exactly. The barometer. There's a lot of fake barometers. There's a lot of fake barometers because it's a headline. It's a headline for the 8 billion blogs that do this thing. I mean, James Gunn just said he's going to stop shooting things down on Twitter all the time because people are just putting out bullshit because for
clout,
attention.
Yeah,
and it's insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me, and it's a shame because one of my favorite things about Twitter was that James Gunn would shoot idiots down, and now I'm getting that less. So thank you, idiots. You were that stupid.
All right, I guess we'll wrap it up. But The Flash.
Go see this movie. Go see this movie. Support this film.
I am excited for it. So we are building up to the release of The Flash here on the podcast. Next week's episode, we will be doing our Arrowverse update through Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then on the main podcast episode, we'll be talking Flashpoint, the comic, not the Arrowverse episode or the Paradox film. We're talking Flashpoint, the comic. I'm currently already started reading. I'm doing the full read, which I'm regretting because it's 60-some issues or something. But I've read a few. I'm on it. I'm not even to the first Flashpoint. I've read like the Reverse Flash one. I've now read 2 Wonder Woman ones and the Project Superman, and we're building to it.
Now Jordan understands. Now Jordan understands why I haven't read all the tie-ins.
It's a lot of tie-ins, to be fair. I mean, it
scares you off before you start.
I got every single crossover for Dark Crisis this past year, and it was not 60-some issues. I'll tell you that much. It was manageable. It was manageable.
Right. So I'm reading Flashpoint Beyond right now. I have 2 issues left. and of that, and then I'm gonna try to jump in as like a refresher course to the Batman side stuff.
Hmm.
But with school, I probably won't have time to read the comics I want to read. So I'm going to finish Flashpoint Beyond, and then school's going to start, and you know, I'll probably just reread Flashpoint, which I've read
Yeah.
like 8 to 10 times. Like I love Flashpoint.
That's fine. We'll probably mainly stick with the main storyline, but I just figured while I'm reading it for the
I
first
got you.
time, let me get the full experience. And I
That
have to
actually
probably
would be
pick up some
another
pace.
episode. That'd be a good episode for later.
Yeah, you know
Is
what I'm gonna write
all
down
the
too? I'm gonna write down Flashpoint Beyond too, because
yes,
we're gonna want to talk about that at some point.
yep. So there's and with comics, there is an endless line of stories we can talk about. We're talking about over 80 years of stories.
Hmm.
Some of them from the Golden and Silver Age are actually pretty good, and some of them are awful too. But there are so many great stories from DC Comics. We'll be here forever for that.
Yeah, so we'll figure out what we'll do after that week as well, because then we're going to go right into the movie the following week. So we're building to it. It's getting here. We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited for it. But so just continue checking out the feeds. We're going to have stuff related to Superman's 85th throughout the year, Flash stuff for the Flash film. And then we'll probably do, what we should do too is probably look up some sort of Blue Beetle run to read before the
Oh
movie
yeah,
comes out. And we can probably talk about that too. Let me write that
yeah, that
Blue
sounds
Beetle
cool. It's something I want to get into anyway.
before the
So,
movie. Let me put that.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we can always talk about Booster Gold. We can always.
That's true. I
I'm
love
sure.
Booster.
You
You
pick
know
a
who?
Booster Gold story, give me some homework, and we will do some Booster Gold.
You know who's my Max profile picture? Is Mr. Gold.
That's awesome.
They don't
Batman is
have
mine.
they don't have the JLA. They don't have JL like the cartoon Flash as an option.
I noticed that. I
But they had
have
Booster. I was like, what?
Yeah, I have Kevin Conroy Batman as my
Oh,
avatar.
nice.
I have actually I think it's weird because I think it's like from the Justice League
It is.
Unlimited.
It's not from the
And-
Batman animated
which
series.
doesn't make any sense to me. Like what would you prefer as a fan? But I'm like, it's
Put
still
both.
Kevin Conroy Batman.
But both, they look
Honestly,
different enough.
hell, give me Arkham Asylum Batman. You own
That's
it.
true. They
So-
don't want to promote the game because they can't play it on the profile. But yeah.
I guess, yeah, but that would be the one I would choose. You know what's weird? Because I was originally so psyched for the Flash, I was gonna like make myself Ezra Miller's Flash, and then I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to do that.
Plus, I don't like the Justice League suit for it, so I really want it cartoon.
Yeah,
Flash is what I want it. Maybe they'll add it at some point, but
the cartoon Flash I might have done, but yeah.
But I'll rock Booster until then.
Did you see the controversy that Ray Fisher isn't part of
Yeah,
the
they
Justice
added
League
him.
avatars?
Look, here's the thing, people. He's back added, but two, they're porting stuff from another platform to it because this is actually a different app, which is dumb.
Yes, it is
but
dumb.
it is a different app. On my TV, it's the same app. On my phone, it's a different app.
It's really dumb, and it's like I just don't understand why they couldn't just add the Discovery Plus to the app they already established. Plus, as a fan of all things purple, I liked
blue
the
like
purple.
everything else. But
Like
you know what?
everything's blue.
Our podcast stuff is blue, so I'll take it.
Okay, they did it for us.
Exactly.
They're the one to watch. We're the one to listen to.
Exactly. Once you're done watching HBO Max or Max now, just go ahead and pop on that Elseworlds.
Look, when you're feeling sad because you watched an episode of Secession and they're all horrible human beings, and you need some hope, you need some Superman. We got you, because oh my goodness, I can't wait for I can't wait for the finale. But I hope every single Secession character just loses.
I have not watched Succession, so I guess I should get on it at some point.
Just plan to take a shower after every episode. You're fine.
All right, we'll wrap it up here. At Elseworlds DC fan for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow along with my Arrowverse progress there, or certain comic panels I share. And Chris has an account that you can find there. Multiversal. Is it just Multiverse Omni? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's at Multiversal Omni, and you can follow me at FootballMan58. Chances are you'll get the comic books both places because I forget about the other one.
Yes, yeah. So just reach out to him on one of those. He'll find it at some point.
If I get a notification of Multiversal Omni, I see it. I tend to forget about it, and then you'll see like random days where I'm just like on it, like crazy. But yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. You can reach us there. Like I said, next week is Flashpoint, the comic. If you want to read along with us, read it, jump in, give us some feedback, send us some thoughts before we record. We usually record on Thursdays or Fridays. So make sure you get that in, and we will catch you all next week